Dr. Goldman, how is the NHS adopting and following this policy? I read somewhere that I think 97% of acute trusts in England are following this matching Michigan program.
Well, I think we've learned exactly, again, as the States has, that if you want something to go well, everybody has to do the same thing and do it on a regular basis. They have to know what to do. You have to have the same instructions. So I think we've been doing this in different ways around the NHS, really ever since we started to relearn the lessons of the past. So there are many projects like that, adopted from the States, brought over to this country, other projects locally, internally in my own trust. There were different things going on, but all built around this learning.
And Professor Durden, how do you think, is this cultural shift got a long way to go yet, do you think?
I think the cultural shift has some way to go, but I think we've really made huge progress and it's now become mainstream. I'd like to pick up two of the points from Peter Pronovost and Dennis Mackey. The care bundle approach, which we've picked up from their sort of work, it was simplifying what we've been teaching. We as microbiologists and infection people had been teaching in a fairly complex way for years. It's the same material, but it had never got through.
Professor Beggs, again, as an outsider, as it were, a microbiologist looking at this, are you pleased that this, in a sense, is now an issue that's really being taken seriously, whereas in the past, perhaps it's one of those things that's slipped by the wayside?
Yes, absolutely. I think that every time you puncture the patient's skin, you make them vulnerable to infection. And actually managing these devices is an issue of huge importance.
Dennis Mackey, how difficult are things in the US in this very difficult financial time, and what about financial incentives or maybe disincentives?
Well, incentives, I think, work much better than disincentives. But if we're looking at the fundamental issue, I would say again, we want to continue to improve our product. If we don't, we're going to stagnate and we'll lose ground. And the question is, should we be putting more money into infection control? Is the Pope Catholic? Of course we should. It doesn't make sense that we wouldn't. And I frankly would state that the stingy federal support for research and infection control from the US NIH, which has a budget in the tens of billions of dollars, I think has been shameful until very recently.
And Peter Pronovost, what's your thought here? I'm just minded that we are in an era where we're running out of antibiotics, and yet not that much money goes into this area of research.
Yeah, I'm quite concerned both in the UK and the US because we are in tough financial times, but our approach to saving money has largely been to underpay hospitals and trusts. And what that will do is it will reduce staff to actually work on these problems. So we'll have less infection control practitioners, even though they save lives. We'll have less doctors who could allocate time to manage populations of infections or implement and monitor these issues.
Should there be some financial support offered to healthcare organizations in order to support new technology for patient safety? I'll start with you, Clive Beggs.
Well, I suppose I think that the big benefits are going to be actually from the devices and from the new regimes or the new culture that's put in. It's going to save money itself. Preventing infection actually saves money, so it's going to pay for itself. The problem is, as I said before, many of these new innovative ideas actually need a freedom, someone to actually try them out and get clinical evidence. You need to know if you're building a care bundle about something, you need to have some evidence. And an awful lot of these areas that we deal with infection, and especially with devices, don't have that evidence. So I would like to see the government and the Department of Health putting their money into more research and being able to actually identify and quantify what really makes a difference.